Well, by chance, we had corroboration of the power of her apology just a few weeks later when we had a senior German member of parliament, Peter Peterson, staying with us. We discovered he'd been in the hall that day when Madame Law spoke. Well, I arranged for him to speak to the City Club, the leading forum in Portland, and he did so. Great fluency in English, great love of the Americans. The audience was very much with him. And just at the end of question time, an old gentleman down front said, "Excuse me, Mr. Peterson, I see from your biography that at the end of the war you must have been about 18 or 19. Were you a member of the Nazi Party or not?" Well, the chairman said, "You don't need to answer. We don't want to get personal." Peter said, "I want to." And he went to the microphone. He said, "At the end of the war, I was convinced of only one thing, that the Allies had bigger bombs and bigger planes. I still thought Hitler was right and everybody else was wrong." Well, nobody was leaving the hall at that point. And then he told how he'd escaped from a British prisoner of war camp and come home, and there was a Jewish gentleman who told him quite dispassionately of what it had been like. Peter was horrified. He wanted to emigrate, anything to get away. He thought that was all just British propaganda. But his father persuaded him to stay, and he plunged himself into the economic recovery. And then he was invited to that center. He came, he knew something of the history of in-law, but he wasn't ready for what came when she apologized in that way. And he told the City Club that he had to go to his room and just think about it. And he suddenly remembered an incident 2 years earlier when he'd seen some emaciated people being herded from one cattle car to another. And he said to his officer, "Who are those people?" The officer said, "Oh, don't worry, they're just Poles and Jews." And Peter said, to my shame, I hadn't worried. And I suddenly realized the moral insensitivity in me that had made Hitler possible. But for the grace of God, I could have been in the SS. Well, he went on to really give his life to build a new Europe. He said, "All my past rose up in revolt against the courage of this woman. I suddenly realized that there were things for which we as individuals and nations could never make restitution. We knew that she'd shown us the only way open if Germany was to play a part in the reconstruction of Europe. The basis of a new Europe would have to be forgiveness." Well, for 50 years or so, he faithfully pursued that course, worked a lot with Elie Wiesel and others to the right to memorials for the Jews. And when he died, great tribute was paid, because it was just 2 years ago, to what he had done.